All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll keep people are looking on. I'll keep admitting them, but be respectful of our guest time. Welcome into this is part 25 of our weekly Zooms. Thank you all for being on again. Really excited about tonight. Two guys that I've gotten to know through a mutual official friend, Jeremy Mosier, really well. Um, Two of the best in the game. Uh, Excited to hear them tonight. Brought them on just because I thought it would be a little different. I thought, no one's ever had officials on these coaching webinars. And I think the official coach relationship can be very beneficial if we use it the right way and can help as opposed to thinking of them as opponents or enemies. So brought two of the best on. Really excited for them to come on and share and answer questions. So we're going to do it a little bit different tonight. Typically, we have one share and then open up for questions, and then the next. We're going to go ahead and let both of them share, and then we'll open up for questions at the end. So just to kind of make it a little smoother process. So first up tonight, we'll have Jamie Luckie. He's in so many – these two guys are in so many leagues, I can't keep up with them all. So they can, delve into all that. But obviously Jamie's one of the best and refed in multiple Final Fours. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to him.
I appreciate it, David. Thanks for having me. And I actually think it's great that you have Teddy and I on the same night. We've certainly have some common points throughout our career, and I don't think there's any other person in the country that I've been to more camps with or alongside of in a teaching atmosphere and a learning atmosphere than Teddy through the years. And we have some commonality in our mentors and just a lot of different things, philosophy and things like that. So I think it's very appropriate that you have us both on together. The first thing I would say is that I always tell referees, and I'm going to go into myself a little bit in a minute, but every referee should coach and every coach should referee. And I say that at our teaching camps all the time because I think you have a better understanding of what the other one feels like if you all do that. And today I had a middle school soccer game. I've been coaching at one school for 14 years. So I got off the field at about 5:30, 6 o'clock. So I'm getting my coaching fix now just through middle school soccer. But I coached along the way, a lot of club soccer and things like that. So it's just one thing that helps us get a better perspective of how the other person feels. It just goes on, gives you a lot of room to grow and learn from the other person's point of view. So, I'm not a big one about talking about myself. And I think Teddy's kind of the same way. The way we are on the court is totally different than the way we really are.
Right.
And it's just, that's the way it is. I was actually fortunate enough when I was younger. My dad ran a Boys and Girls Club for almost 50 years in New York, started in New York City and then in Northern New York. And one of the first things my mother made us do, and then my father made us do, was made us act. We were all in some kind of drama. And we all had to get on a stage. We had to join the Toastmasters Club so you could learn how to speak. So it wasn't all just about athletics, even though we were, playing any game that ever went by, but it was different things that at that time you thought, oh, well, okay, I got to be in the local production and get on the stage, or I got to sing, or, I got to get up in front of people and speak. But, little did we know that down the road, that those were things that, prepared me anyway for the path I chose and being on a stage and not really caring what people think and being confident and self-assured. And those are the things that parents do for us and did for me and my brothers and sisters. I came from a really big family that certainly helped me along the way. You said something about say something that they don't know. I didn't start out refereeing basketball. I played hockey in high school. I was the first thing I ever refereed was hockey. My first love was hockey when I was a kid. I played basketball all the time, but I competed in hockey. And so the first time I ever blew a whistle, was during a hockey game. It was so damn cold. I never went back more than 1 or 2 times. I said, you can have this. It was before the days of the indoor warm ice rinks. We had cold ice and shelled buildings. So I didn't like refereeing hockey because it was just way too cold. So I decided at a young age, when I was a senior in college, to get into basketball officiating. And I did that because of my brother and some other guys were involved in it. And, I thought it'd be a nice way to make some extra money. I mean, I had no idea that, down the road, maybe it'd be something I want to do at the level I've been fortunate enough to do it at. So, I started like where everybody else starts. I started with junior, middle school, junior varsity, CYO, basically refereed any game that anybody was playing, 3rd and 4th grade girls, didn't matter. I mean, you just went out and you blew the whistle, similar to as coaches do. You start out and you get a job and you get someone to give you a chance, and you just show up and you do it. And it's something that, I fell in love with at an early age, not only the game of basketball, but, being on the floor as an official, being part of the game, and, being able to go out and do that. And also, hanging out after the games. And that's kind of how we learned. We learned, I think, like back then, how coaches, I would go out we'd meet after games, and a bunch of referees and a bunch of coaches would get together, and we'd talk basketball and have cold beverages, all night long. I mean, that's what you did. We didn't have video. We used salt and pepper shakers and whatever was on the table to, simulate players or plays or whatever. So, what we do, and Teddy and I, again, sharing some of the stuff we've shared, and how we came up was no different than how coaches do it. And I just think that's part of the love of the game, and, how we were brought up in it. A couple little known facts about me. Rick Carlisle was the first baseman on my Little League baseball team. He was a terrible baseball player, but he was about 6'5". So anything we threw him, he could catch. And Rick's still a really, really good friend of our family today. And matter of fact, just made a huge donation to our boys club, where my brother's the executive director now for a new gymnasium. So he's very much one of those guys that gives back, and through the years has been kind to our family and the Boys and Girls Club where I grew up in Northern New York. Second little known fact about me is I played in junior college, and Teddy knows this. I played for Kevin O'Neill. Some people say, well, how did you survive that? I said, I have no idea, because he was crazy as hell then, and I think he's still crazy as hell now. But, I still talk to Kevin. We laugh. He's not that much older than me. But, he taught me a lot about the game and playing hard and commitment and hard work. I didn't pick up a lot of his bad things. I just took all his good things. I certainly don't have the sailor's mouth that he has, but he was a big influence on me as well. And I was very fortunate to play for him, even just for 1 year. I had the opportunity to learn some stuff from Coach Jerry Welsh, who's a legendary New York coach, Division III in Potsdam State, won 2 national championships. Obviously, Timmy went on to play for him and went on to do great things as a coach. So I had some influence there. He was actually the AD at the college I played soccer at. So I was around him, around the game. I didn't play basketball when I was there, but I certainly was. I took every advantage I could of being around him, and I still communicate with Jerry to this day. Great man and a great basketball mind. Tremendous records at D3 in Potsdam, and then went on to Iona. So those are some things that people don't know about me. I've been doing this for 30 years, I guess, Division I. I love it. Hope to have a few more years left. I think we're in for a huge challenge this year. It's like I told my kids at the soccer field today, we're only playing a 6-game schedule. We usually play 12. I say 6 is better than 0, boys. Right. So let's go out and we tee it up every day and play hard and just be thankful that we're on the field, and hopefully in a few weeks here, be thankful that we're on the court. Now, as far as David said something about talking about, I'm not a big storyteller, but, things on the court that, that I see or been through the years that, I think are crucial and help me along the way. I've become very more diplomatic in my last 5 to 10 years than I was probably in my first 20. That's reputation, and that's, confidence, and the ability to communicate much better than I was when I first started out. When referees first start out, especially Division I, they have absolutely no idea what to say to coaches. None. They have no clue, because they're on the floor and all they care about is trying to get plays right. And that's all they're thinking about. So when coaches approach younger officials, or when I was younger and coaches approached me, I didn't have time to talk to them because I was so focused on trying to get calls right. That part of the game was the furthest thing from my mind, even though as you go on in your career, you realize that's a huge part of the game. Coaches, the NCAA college basketball is a coach's game. Coaches stay, coaches move around, but they really don't go away. In the NBA, we all know it's a player's game. It's a totally different story. But, so it's very difficult for especially younger officials to communicate with coaches. So, one of the things that, and I've talked to some newer coaches along the way over the past several years, and they say, what do you think? What should I do? And I always say, one of the things I always say is ask questions as opposed to making continuous comments. Because as an official, when you continuously get comments from a coach, that's very distracting. But when you're asked a question, it's much easier to give an answer. I remember when Dino was at Wake when he first started in a terrible, tough situation after Skip left. And I finally looked at Dino after about 2 or 3 games. I said, Dino, just please once, just ask me a question. Ask me anything, because I am so sick of you making comments every time I run by. But just, ask me a question. And that usually helps the dialogue a little bit better. I always like to say that when you can tell a coach that you've made a mistake, not many times in a game, that's a really high quality for an official. But on the reverse side of that, when I'm coaching and I know somebody gets a play right and my player wants to not disagree, obviously I tell them to get back focused on playing, but I compliment the official and say, hey, great, correct call. I mean, that's 100% right. Even though if it goes against you, I'm telling you that goes a long way with referees, that, they know you're not buttering them up, but they know that, hey, they agree with me. Even if it went against me, they agree that I got that call correct. And that sometimes can go a long way with the guy, especially younger officials, like I said, who don't really have much to say. That's really, I mean, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of give and take that goes into coach official relationship. I personally, I treat everybody the same. I see Coach Warren was on the call earlier, and I think Coach Warren would probably back it up. Like if he was playing at Duke, he's going to get the same kind of treatment, at least with me, that Mike Krzyzewski's going to get. I'm always going to go actually probably a little bit further with somebody, from a mid-major than I would with a guy like Mike or Roy or Cal or Bill Self, because, and I see Teddy shaking his head, and we share this philosophy is I always say, if you treat those guys, if you hold those guys to a higher standard, then everybody's going to look at you and say, okay, he's fair. He's treating people the same. And I know coaches have a pet peeve of, looking on TV and seeing somebody of a higher caliber or a big time school getting away with stuff, and somebody else comes in there and you say something to them, or some young guy says something to them, they get teed up. That would piss me off too. I'm telling you, I would probably not stay around to see the rest of the game if that happened, because it's just not right. So I always try to go the extra mile with whoever's sitting over there and thinks they're the underdog. And the last thing I'd say is that, great officials, and Ted is one of these, are guys you want to see when you walk into a hostile environment. And, I know when people ask me, who would you if you have a tough road game, who would you want? Well, the first person I always say is Teddy, because I know he doesn't give a shit and is going to be fair and is going to be firm, and is not going to waver to, what's going on. And so those are the guys that when you have those guys and that, then I think, as coaches, you need to be as nice as possible to those guys, because those guys could be your key to a ticket to, correct call with 10 seconds in the game, as opposed to, kind of wavering to the fans and the crowd and the fact that, the favorite team is supposed to win and all that. Most of the really great officials really don't care about that at all. Never enters into their thought process. And as a matter of fact, they're going to make sure they go the extra mile on the road to see that the road coach is comfortable, is at ease, and knows that they're going to get a fair shake. So those are some of my philosophies that I take into all my games. If I had to do one thing over differently, I would certainly try to be more diplomatic earlier in my career than I was. I'm not saying that I was inconsistent or not fair. I just think that looking back, I wish that diplomacy would have been a stronger suit of mine earlier. And I'm not sure it hurt my career or helped it or whatever. It really doesn't matter. But I know, self-evaluation is the way to get better. And that's one thing that I always say that I wish I would have just been a little more diplomatic earlier in my career. So, David, that's really all I had. I'm going to wait for Ted to go, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yes. First of all, it's an honor to be here. David, you chose the right two guys tonight. And the reason why I say that is because I know good officials when I see them. Now, if I say it to Jamie, his head may blow up. Jamie knows I'm just straightforward. I'm as straight as an arrow as they come. Okay, so I will always give an honest, but I have him ranked probably in the top 5 referees that I've ever refereed with my whole life. But before I get to that, there's a few things that I need to tell you about myself. It's too bad Mike Eves isn't here, because he always wants to argue about this. That he wants to try to claim me as a West Virginia guy. Okay. I was born in St. Clairsville, Ohio, right across the river. Fortunately, I did graduate. I went to high school, grade school, junior high, and everything from Moundsville, West Virginia. If you don't know where that is, that's in the northern panhandle of West Virginia. Also, I found out a little fact finding. Josh Pastor was born in Glendale, West Virginia, in the hospital right behind the high school that I taught in and I graduated from. So we do have something, sort of like in common. I'm very grateful to be around. I don't talk about everything that I've done everywhere that I've been, because I'm a firm believer that I was always taught the journey, to me, is not over. It's really just beginning. And that's the way I've always treated it. And I've always tried to take care of it. Even if other things in my life have gone wrong here, but I've always known that being able to officiate and to be a part of something, it has always made me grow as a person. I started out a graduate of Glenville State College. I was a coach first. I was a coach. And just like Jamie just brought up that everybody should coach before they ref. Well, I coached one game in high school, got 3 technicals at the half, and got ejected. So that's how I started my career. I had a principal that was very tough, and that was the last game I ever coached. He said, "You will not coach in this school with that behavior." So I figured that if I couldn't beat him, I would go join him. So that same year, while I was doing some graduate work, I decided that I wanted to learn to ref. And I was taking some extra courses, and I was a janitor in my college gym. I was a janitor, picking up garbage, cleaning, doing everything I could just to make a nickel. And there were these 2 guys that they were refereeing, and they were having a good time. And if you know anything about Glenville State College, well, there's not many people of color at Glenville State College. I'm picking up trash, and it had to be these 2 brothers are out there refereeing, and we're the only 3 that's in the gym. I'm talking about packed house. So I saw where they were having so much fun and they were enjoying themselves and they was having fun, having a good time. So when the game was over, I kind of like went to the locker room and I was cleaning up and I asked him, I says, how do you become one of those? Because I'm out there far-fetched. And they said, well, you mean learn to ref? I says, yes. And they said, well, you need to get part of association. So that next semester, I decided that I'm going to take a class. And so I took a class and I started. I wear a black and white and pink shirt. That's because I didn't know how to do laundry. I had a black, white, pink shirt, pair of blue jeans, pair of Chuck Taylor Converse sneakers, and a shoestring with a silver whistle with a P in it. So you'd have to go right back to history to go back to look at that. So that's how I started. I traveled the whole state of West Virginia on Thursday after school, and I refereed for $8 a game. Now you couldn't get me leave my driveway for $8. But anyway, that's just how it is. Then as the years progressed, I started running into people such as Bob Wortman of the Big Ten Conference. He was one that really gave me a great opportunity to start. I came in at age 26, but I was in the Southern Conference with Mr. Shirley prior to that at age 22. So this will be my 38th season. They saw something in me. I don't know what they saw, but I'm very fortunate, just to have been around them. Bob Wortman, back in the Big Ten in 1986, brought me in, and I didn't have a clue on who this guy was. I didn't apply for the league, or I ended up in the league, and next thing I know, I got 30 games, which he has never heard of. It just doesn't happen like that. So the second half of the season, he didn't tell me that the conference games were a little bit different, because you're working all these blowout games, and they're saying, I'm getting on-the-job training. And the game is way over my head, and I'm just speed skating. I'm working with Gary Muncy, who worked Magic Johnson and Larry Bird in 1979 in Salt Lake City, because I watched the game on TV in my college dorm. And then it's amazing, 7 years later, I'm on the same crew with Gary Muncy. I'm just very fortunate. I'm blessed. And then I ran into Mr. Jim Birch. Got a chance to know Daddy B. He was like a father to Jamie and I. And our hearts are always very heavy about Mr. Birch. And we think of Mr. Birch very, very often. We carry Mr. Birch like in our heart. And we just carry people like that has helped us. John Guthrie, he was a great. David Guthrie, who you see working the NBA games. John Guthrie was like a father for me. I never had a birthday party until Coach Guthrie came into my life. So all these people mean something to me. Art Highland meant a lot to me because he let me referee in the Big East, at the age 28, 29 years old. And I was leading crews and I refereed by the seat of my pants. And just like Jamie had brought up, I was a lightning thrower. I throw lightning. That's just the way it was. It was just no deal. That's just how I grew up. And that's why Jamie's laughing. But we grew up that we threw lightning. I mean, that's just how we refed. I mean, we threw lightning. I mean, you threw something at us, we threw lightning right back at you. And we just basically refereed with care, but we also referee with an I don't care attitude and reckless abandon, because that's how that we were able to make it, because there was so many people at the time probably clicking at our heels, and we were probably trying to find our way to get there. I was always very tough. I just grew up tough because my dad was a Marine and I was his only child. And my father used to always tell me, he said, don't you embarrass my last name, because I do have one of those names. And I was his only son, his only child. And I learned that from the get-go. So I learned to be tough because he was a Marine and he didn't take failure. He just didn't. He did not take excuses. He didn't take failure. He expects you that he told you one time, you did it the next time. That's just how I grew up. But I still have carried that with me to this day. But one thing is that over the years, I've lightened up a whole lot. I've learned to enjoy it. I've learned to embrace the journey. I've learned to give. I've learned that it's not about me. It's about the whole crew concept. It's about people. I'm basically an introvert most of the time, but you put me on that floor, I don't know, just lights, camera, action. That's what we know. And that's why Jamie and I have a lot in common. He brought up that Kevin O'Neill, who I love very much, and we have some commonalities. John Beeline, the coach of Michigan, was my high school 10th grade teacher. So we have a lot of things that are basically, like in common with one another. He grew up in the snow. Well, should I say in Alaska just about, and I had to shovel some snow, but he probably had to use snow plows and things like that. But we've just been on this this has been a merry-go-round, and I just want to keep the merry-go-round going and just do whatever I have to do. It doesn't matter where I'm the referee. It don't matter I'm the U1, I'm the U2. It doesn't matter if I get 10 calls, if I get 5 calls. It all just doesn't matter. Over the years, I've just learned to be a better communicator. I've learned to talk. I have more fun than anybody probably on the floor. I just have fun. I have a good time. I just let it all hang out because I'm in a spot where I probably shouldn't have been. And if you believe anything with God or anything that goes on, and I think Jamie can probably say this too, that we're very fortunate to be in the positions that we're in. And I couldn't be a young official now coming along because I would struggle with so much. I learned from refereeing by sitting with Jimmy Burr on a napkin after a game. That when he asked me, he said, "Do you want to become a good ref?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And I nodded up and down. And he took a napkin and he remembered every single play that I called that he felt that was very questionable and that I could have helped that team a little bit more. And to this day, I've carried that same philosophy about what Jim Burr's taught me. And Jimmy Burr was probably as tough as my father, but I grew up with that toughness, and that toughness that he expected from me, I always wanted to please him. It's always like you have a coach that the coach will tell you go through the wall. If a player believes in you, the player will go through the wall. And that's what I had. I had a father that was tough, mental tough. He was just mental tough. And I got that from my father. And that's why I can buckle down. I got that from Jimmy Burr because I always wanted to meet his approval because I always felt that if I ever met his approval, that I can make it. And now when I see him, he smiles. And he doesn't pat me on the back, but he smiles. And I know when he smiles, he's watched me grow. I'm just blessed. To have so many people like in my life. And I mentioned that Jamie is no doubt, and I don't blow no smoke. I like refereeing with Jamie. I don't trust a lot of people. That's just how I am. Okay. I know when he tells me something is gospel, I know that he done analyzed it before he brought it to me, and I can go right along with it. And that's where I am like in my career. And I would take him anywhere. Another referee I always loved was Tim Higgins because he always had a great sense of humor. He always had a way to make you laugh. He'd always ask me, "Teddy, who are you going to be tonight? You going to be Jimmy or are you going to be me? Who are you going to be?" I say, "Well, Higgs, if I'm on Jimmy's side, I'm going to be serious. I'm going to sway. If I'm on your side, I'm going to laugh and joke." And that's just the way I was with him. The other person that was one of my favorites was Tommy O'Neill. And you have to know Tommy O'Neill. And the reason why I like Tommy O'Neill is because I worked my first Final Four with him. And I asked him 6 times in the meeting, "Tommy, who we got? Who we got, Tommy?" I asked him 6 times. And he was a real leader, and he's been a real good friend to this day. The other person I think you would know is Roger Ayers. And the reason why I say it, if you get past all that dippity-doo that he's got in his hair, and you just watch him ref and watch how he talks and how he communicates, he de-escalates a lot of stuff. So I still learn a lot from him. I still learn, even though I may have brought him up some, but I'm always in that learning mode. Always in that learning mode. And it's just because that's just where I am like in my life. I could take anybody out there, 2 of you, and you would never know I'm out there with you until something goes wrong. And then all of a sudden I had to step in. I know I've gone on like long enough. I'm just honored, David, just to be here. I was elated that you asked me, and We can open up. We can talk about anything. Just don't ask us who our favorite coaches are. We can't answer that question, okay? Because we're still going to be having them, okay? But just feel free to ask anything that you would like. We'll answer the best way we can. And I just want to say it's great to be here.
Yeah, Teddy, that's great stuff. David, I just want to say one thing too. And Teddy talked about Jim Birch, and I failed to mention him, but I have him written down. Like coaches have coaching trees, like guys that branch off from people they learn from. Jim Birch is a guy that has him and John Russell were the first two African American officials in the Atlantic Coast Conference. But Jim Birch is a guy that has probably influenced more officials in the last 50 years, well, him and John Guthrie, than anybody else.
Right.
And many referees come from Jim Birch's officiating tree. And Jim Birch was a superintendent of schools. He was a teacher. He was his background was education. And so Teddy and I were fortunate enough every year to go to Jim Birch's camps twice a year. And it was all about teaching. It was just constant teaching. And like, again, no different from how coaches learn. It's the same thing going on with many referees. And, you know, Jim Birch is truly one of the icons in basketball officiating history, in my opinion, and the influence he has had over college basketball. You can't even measure it. The man that when he passed away just over a year ago, and it's like you could say he'd be the John Wooden of
Right.
officials, basically that much. And we're very fortunate, Teddy and I, have been personally involved with him for so many years. But then, you know, we pass that craft on to whoever comes by, because you know, there's no insecurities in with Teddy and I in terms of officiating. So we always say we'll give you everything we got and try to help give back the craft to people and teach and try to, you know, keep learning and help people out along the way.
No, absolutely. I agree with both of you guys as far as helping people. I've seen firsthand. You guys do that through camps and obviously knowing kind of one of those guys that you were talking about coming behind you in Jeremy. So we'll go ahead and open up for questions. Obviously, if you have a question, just introduce yourself, name and your program, and then you can ask either one of them questions and they can obviously have at them.
I got a quick one. How you doing? Rob Summers here, Cleveland State University, assistant men's basketball coach. It's for you, Teddy. First of all, I coached at Glenville State, so your Glenville State stories were kind of hilarious. I was there for 2 years back in 2011 to 2013, so I know a lot about being out there at the Go Mart and got a little CVS. So it's one stoplight. Hugs told me when I went down there, it's one stoplight. Ain't much going on. You got to go to Weston to go to Walmart, and you'll figure it out. But that was a good one. But I also was excited to get on this call with you because you are the only person to give me a technical foul. 2003, Penn State versus Iowa. I told Jeff Horner he was too small. He was too little. And you looked at me, and I said, what? And you teed me up so quick. It was my freshman year. Jerry Dunn looked at me and said, what are you doing? I came out. I had to sit the whole second half. So I just wanted to ask, why? You know, you made me sit the whole second half. I was a freshman, starting for probably the second game of my career, and you had Coach Dunn on me like that.
Well, number one, Coach Dunn and I were good friends. A lot of people didn't know about that. Number two, I got to ask you the question: How tall are you?
7 foot.
Well, then, how tall is he?
6'2".
Well, there you go. You can't intimidate nobody. There you go. You got your answer.
Yeah, I see it. I see it at the time, and still to this day, I've only had one tech as a player. There's one tech as a player, and
what we call that
was
too.
it.
You know, when you go into a game and they're selling programs, and you buy one. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes we got to help you get with the program. So that's what we call buying a program.
Hey, I got with the program all right. I had to run quite a few 17s that next day, so I was in shape for sure.
Well, that's probably because Coach Dunn says, I can't believe you said that to that guy. I can't believe that's probably why. Good, no doubt.
No, but really good seeing you guys on here. I'm enjoying hearing you guys' stories. So definitely excited.
Well, how's the coaching come along?
It's going great. It's going great. Don't get too many technicals these days with Coach Gates up here at Cleveland State. So we're going our second year, and we're enjoying it out here. And hopefully, if I get you again, I won't say anything crazy.
No, you don't have to worry about that now. So, see, I already broke you in. You're good now.
Hey, Jamie, Teddy, this is Cliff Warren.
Hey, Cliff.
Hey, Cliff.
Jamie, I appreciate you looping me into this, and great advice for coaches when you said, instead of just talking, rambling, ask a question. Now, I'm assuming that is mainly for head coaches. Now that I'm an assistant coach, and for all assistant coaches that are on here, what can we get away with saying to officials other than asking you a question, or do you prefer just assistants just to sit the F down?
No, I see, and I think there was a time that was a popular mode of thinking, but and Teddy, I'm sure will share this again with us being at so many camps together. We share the basically same philosophy that assistant coaches can be very helpful to officials to get through games, and so. I try to tell people, and I try to personally know who's on the bench, and then use assistant coaches to help you with things that the head coach is too busy to even delve into. For instance, I'll use a player who's gone, Jack Salt at Virginia. Big guy set a lot of illegal screens. Well, I would never go over to Tony and say, "Hey, Tony,
Right.
Salt has been illegal 5 times already.
Right.
And if someone runs into him, it's going to be an illegal screen." So I would go over to Jason or somebody else over there on the bench and say, "Listen, just so you know, Salt hasn't been legal since we started. So you might want to address that with him before you get in a situation where you have a player with 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes and they're on the bench." So I think that's one way we can use, we try to use assistant coaches to help you out. Now, as far as assistants jumping up and questioning calls and things like that, obviously that's a different story. But I still think you guys, assistants, play a big role in the game in terms of helping us get through problem spots like I just said, or people have their shirt tails untucked and they won't tuck them in, or I just talked to number 55 and he just ignored me. Can you please talk to him? Just different things like that, where we, that assistants can be empowered to really, really help the game. It's a team effort, and you've been a head coach, and you're going to be a head coach again. And the other thing is, we always say, assistant coaches are going to be a head coaches someday. So you want to remember them. Remember that you treated them fairly and with respect, and not just sit the F down. So again, if you're getting that, you're probably getting it from people who have no idea what to say, and we all been there. But I think it's all, we're all part of the game together, and I think we can really work together with the assistants to help the game.
Yeah, one other thing about dealing with the assistant coaches, I'd rather talk to them I like to talk to them more than I would the head coach, because I need to use them to help us to get through the game. But one of my pet peeves is I don't want an assistant coach coming to me, or any coach, before the start of the game and trying to plant Johnny Appleseed on me. That bothers me, okay? Because I don't want to go into a game with any preconceived type notion that somebody has, this guy does this guy does this. Now you can bring it to me once the game starts. You can probably bring it to my attention. But sometimes coaches don't understand is that referees want to be free mentally before the game starts. Then whatever takes place during the confines of that game, we will handle it. We will deal with it. I mean, that's just how most of us roll. I've always been that type of person that if you bring it to my attention during the game, I'll deal with you. I'll deal with your situation. I'll help you through the situation. But as far as prior to games, I tell a lot of people, they come up, oh, that's a no-no. We can't plant Johnny Appleseed because that seed's not going to grow. It's just not. Okay. And that's one of the things is that you always got to wait a time when to bring it to somebody, because I'd rather speak to the assistant coach anyway than I would the head coach at times, because I know he's got a lot of things going on in his mind, and you guys are actually doing all the coaching, really. So but I'd rather deal with the assistant coach when he wants to bring something to my attention at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
I'll ask a question. Damali Haligba, University of South Dakota. Appreciate you guys getting on here and sharing. My question will kind of fall along those lines as well with the assistant coaches is, what is I know there's some assistant coaches that like to stand just to kind of self-promote themselves during games, but for the assistant coaches that are standing up coaching, why is it such an important deal for them to sit down, especially if you know that they're coaching their team versus yelling at officials?
You want to go, Ted?
Yeah, go ahead, Jamie. You go ahead.
Well, it's one of those optics things that people that are watching these games, whether it's the powers that be, NCAA people, whatever, that optically it doesn't look good when, the benches are standing all the time, even if people are just coaching. So we get all kinds of pressure from leagues and from eventually the NCAA when we get that far about keeping benches down, because they just don't like the way it looks. Now, I totally get your point. I had to give Purdue a delay of game warning in an NCAA tournament game because the assistant coach kept standing up with a board, and I hated to do it, but I didn't want to give a real penalty. We know that's not a real penalty; it's just a warning. But we had to get our point across that it's not us, because that doesn't really distract us. Unless it's late in the game and there's pressure and everybody's standing up, the whole bench is standing up. That's a different story. Right. But we got other things to worry about. But it's one of those things that we get pressure from administrators of. They don't want people seeing assistant coaches standing up. Now, their reasoning, I just think it's just how it looks, how it appears on television, and we know all these games are on some kind of television or streaming or whatever, and it just doesn't look good. Ted?
See, we know that when we go to the other end, you're going to stand up anyway. So, okay.
Very true.
Okay. We know when we go to the other end, you're going to stand up anyway. Okay. We just hope that when we come back down, you sit down. Okay. Because I don't want to be the trail position looking over my shoulder, and then all of a sudden something happens. You're going to tell me, well, what are you doing watching me? Why didn't you watch the game? Okay. So, but I would totally agree with Jamie. It's about their optics. I mean, if you get with somebody like me, I'm kind of loose. Hey, man, as long as you ain't bothering me, we're cool. Okay. But when it comes from above, then there's sometimes that we have to, it depends on how we present it to you. That we got to get somebody, like if you're one of those guys, you like to stand up a lot. I like to get the guy sitting next to you and say, hey, my man, do me a favor. Help me with him. Okay. Without putting you right in the scope. All right. Back in the day, I'd put you right in the crosshairs, but I'd get somebody to try to work with you. I would do all I could as a veteran to try to work with you. Okay. I mean, try to work with you, because we realize it is an emotional game. Okay. Right. We do realize you're trying to feed your family. Okay. But on the other hand, you need to look, we're trying to feed ours too. Okay. We don't want to eat you up.
All right, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Good question.
Hunter Henderson, NC State. Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, Hunter.
What's up, Hunter?
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
I will, go to Teddy's point. I enjoy when I see you guys walking into the arena. I know that we're going to get a good whistle, or it's going to be a fair game with it. You guys, I appreciate, I enjoy when you guys call the game. What is, I guess, some of y'all's biggest pet peeves from coaches or staffs during the game?
I'll go this. Number one, since Coach Keats got there, will all you guys all become better dressers? I kind of like noticed that on the front line, like from the get-go, okay? I kind of noticed some of you guys' vehicles, Land Rovers, you got all these nice vehicles sitting out there. You make me go buy one. But some of my pet peeves would be like, just don't wave your arms at me. Just don't do that. Some of my pet peeves is don't yell and scream, because the only one that could yell and scream growing up was my mother, so there's a way to get your point across. That's about all the pet peeves I have. I mean, practically everything else I basically ignore it, because I know it's just a bunch of rhetoric over there. I know it's just coaching. I know it's just chatter. And I've had to learn over the years, don't pay attention to all that idle chit chat, I call it. It's idle chit chat is when I hear everybody beaming on the bench, and that referee's got to be strong enough not to have a bunch of rabbit ears on nothing, that doesn't mean anything. But just don't wave your arms. Just don't jump up and down. Don't be pointing your finger. And I think that you guys know who the personnel you can do it with and those you can't do it with. Yeah. And that's about all I have for you, Jamie.
Yeah, Hunter, same. I mean, histrionics or antics by coaches, running up and down the sidelines, waving their arms, yelling and screaming. I mean, we're right there. I mean, I know, in the past we had a lot of people there and it's loud. It might be different this year. Yeah. But just the how, again, we talked about the assistant coach question, optically how that looks like when that happens to an official, when someone's running around or just waving their arms. It looks bad for our game. It's like it takes the professionalism out of it, and just that's kind of my pet peeve too, is the yelling and the screaming and the arm motions. And if we don't have that, then like Teddy says, the rest of the stuff is just it's part of the game. It's like travel, or you miss that, or whatever. It's just we're so busy. It's just you move on. But those are a couple of mine as well. And I would say most of the guys at the top are probably all of us feel that way, again, because we have people that we're answering to too, in terms of what's going on the sidelines over there, and if we have to take care of something, it's just part of our job, and enforcing the rules. And we're fortunate. I know our primary league is the ACC. We're very fortunate. We have very good benches, and
right.
And most of the leagues now, there's I think there's way less working of officials than there's ever been. Is there seeds planted? Sure.
Right.
Do you try to get a call? Sure.
Yes.
But I don't think it's as much trying to get calls during the game as you're trying to get one call, because that's
right.
usually the difference between winning and losing.
Right.
The margin of error in Division I basketball, whatever league you're in, is so slim. Is maybe you're trying to get just that one call, not where it used to be. I think coaches did work officials over and over for calls. I think those days are kind of gone, I would say.
One thing I like to add to that too is that we don't, and I thought about this, the type of season that we have coming up is going to be a little bit different. If they don't allow fans in, now there's some things I've been thinking about. I'm going to have to adjust, because the reason why I'm going to have to adjust is because if there's no fans, there's going to be more chatter. That's just the way it's going to be. I mean, because usually the fans help drown out what's going on. Now, if there's not going to be any fans, there could be more chatter. There basically could be. Now, basically, I'm asking myself is, well, how I'm going to handle certain chatter, because now there's no fans involved, and now do we jump on everything that somebody says, or what? So that's the part right there that I've been thinking about it, because there's some uncertainty. Because usually you can have the fans around and it'll help get rid of it. And now we got the coaches and the three refs, and the fans aren't around the scores table, or the fans are nowhere around to help drown some of that out. I mean, like if you're in a slot position and you're across the court, now the coach can talk to you. You can hear him more now than you ever could.
Yeah, Hunter, are you still there?
I'm here. Yep.
I'm trying to figure out that if I go to NC State, how I'm going to get any calls right without anybody yelling at me, because I'm so used to them screaming my name.
Hey, you get them all right now. Our fans are brutal sometimes.
That's okay.
But we love them. We love them.
Oh, yeah, you should.
You should.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Hunter.
Thanks, Hunter.
All right, guys, I'll ask one, and it's kind of a two-parter. One is, you were talking earlier about having dialogue, and for coaches on here that may not, they may look as officials as, what are some ways to have dialogue other than, Teddy, that wasn't a foul, or Jamie, I didn't have a travel there, or you missed that one, as opposed to the dialogue of, the questions to ask and whatnot that either head coaches or assistants can advise their head coaches, or maybe they can ask during a media timeout.
Go ahead, James.
Well, yeah, I think a good one is, because we all have different spots on the floor from where we see things from, and where you are on the floor and that angle you have certainly impacts on the look you have on that play. So, David, if you were to come up to me and say, Jamie, just tell me what you saw on that play from where you were standing, because you're immediately respecting the fact that I am in a totally different spot than you are. And then that gives me kind of that permission to say, okay, this is what I had from my angle. And then I can go back to you and say, well, you tell me what you saw from over here, because it's totally different. It's a front side, it's a back side, it's from the other side. So that is always a very respectful way for me in terms of when I'm coaching or when I'm refereeing, that's a great way to handle questioning a call, because it's extremely respectful, and it gives the referee a chance to answer, and then hopefully he's going to give you a chance to say, all right, and then hopefully we move on. I mean, I always tell referees that don't try to get the last word in with coaches. So I'm usually going to let you guys have the last shot, even if it's walking away, and that's okay. Whether it's, well, I disagree. Okay, that's fine. You disagree. You disagree, and then we just move on. But that's one that I think is a good one to use.
Well, he just said something that he'd walk away. I'm not allowed to walk away. So, okay, so I'm not allowed to walk away. So I got to stay in there, and I got to listen to every bit of what's being said, and I can't turn my back. I can't walk away. But usually, that my response is, the first thing is, sometimes you got to turn into Dr. Phil. You just have to stand out there and suck in all the information and let the coach talk. That's one of the first things that I've had to learn over the years. When I was younger, I never did it. I'd put my hand up and say, talk to the hand, because the brother hand not going to listen to you. And that's how I used to be. Now it's like, okay, I hear you, gotcha, understand, gotcha, you're right. And I'm responding in a very positive way, knowing that I have to control my body language. I got to control my emotions, because it is an emotional game. And and you can learn from a coach too, if you pay attention. You can actually learn from a coach. Just because a coach doesn't referee doesn't mean that he doesn't know what's going on. You can actually learn from a coach. And sometimes, as I'll play devil's advocate with him, I'll say, well, if you had the shirt on, what would you call there? Just to get them to dialogue and talk, and then I can learn something from that situation. And if I'm wrong, I just tell them, hey, I'm completely wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to go on. And the reason why I tell you that I'm wrong, I get it off me. And I go back to refereeing the next play. But we've been around it for so long that we know how to handle people. We've learned from our past experiences. We know what works, because if Kersey was here, he would tell you those two guys are lightning. But we're not lightning, okay? I mean, he always tries to do it every time, and I put my hands up and I try to tell him, we're not lightning. I said, you don't see us perform on the floor. You just hope and pray nobody does anything, and both of us are trying to throw them out. But we don't work that way anymore. I mean, we try to get the coach through the game. The goal is get the coach through the game, and he will respect that. And as soon as I've learned that if we talk to you, we'll get you back to coaching. We don't want to go up and down the court 1 or 2 times and you're still on the same play. So we try to put a little bit of human element into it because we are humans, and we've learned that over the years. The younger referees don't know how to do that. They don't know how to process that because that will stay with them for a while, and they don't know how to have the dialogue with them. So if you get a young ref, don't go at him so hard because he's not going to have the answer for you. And if he does say something, he's going to say something smart like off the cuff. And then there you go, you're out of whack. Now you're on him. Now all of a sudden your game's messed up, and now you're forgetting to coach your team.
David, the other thing too is we teach guys when we're at camps is talk to coaches using basketball terms. So if I'm one of you guys, I'm going to find out early who I'm working with, and do they know where the elbow is? Do they know where the short corner is? Do they know what a high screen is? You know, if you put that back on them, then as a coach, you know if you're dealing with someone who's really knows what's going on in this game. Because Teddy and I know everything. We know who's got fouls. We know what defense you're playing.
Right.
We know what's on the shot clock at all times. We know everything, but that's experience. But I would make guys. I would find out if guys know what's going on in the game of basketball, not just out there blowing a whistle. And when you talk about, like I said, the elbow or a brush screen or a down screen or whatever, and just put it back on them to see what they got. And then, that if you got someone who's talking like that, then you got someone you can talk to because they know the game, not just out there blowing a whistle.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I can
Yeah,
ask.
I got a question, Dave.
Go ahead.
That question is, what do you got, Tiger Aldridge from Brunswick Community College, the NJCA. What do you guys think changes when refs ref either ACC or Big East or high level game, then referee a lower division game, like say a SoCon or Big South? What changes as far as how they ref the game, or is it the physicality, or is it like what calls may change, or is there change?
Go ahead, Ted.
Well, as far as myself, I was in the Southern Conference for roughly over 30 some years. And I always felt that Southern Conference was my home league. I had more latitude, just like Jamie spoke like in the beginning. I had more latitude, lots of latitude for the other conferences that I worked at night. I would try to do everything I could to bend over backwards, do everything I could. Even if I kept players in the game, if I kept you from getting a technical foul, if I had to get you back in the box, if I had to do something, I always handled that game a little different. Now, I still blew the whistle. We didn't take any nights off. Okay, so that's not us. I mean, but we kind of like bend over backwards more because we realize that those jobs that you're in, that you're trying to strive to get another job. So we do understand the logistics if coaches don't think that we don't understand that you have to eat. And we will do more by talking with you, talking to your players. We'll do anything that we have to do, just to get you through the game. Now, what happens on Saturdays, then you get a crew on there on Saturdays. Hey, we don't know. Probably because we probably call less fouls. I think we do. I think we have the understanding of letting players know how to play through stuff. I think we have the understanding. I think we have the understanding on who the players are in the league. I think we have the understanding of who all the coaches are. It's basically not that much different, but we still have to call the game. And we will probably help players more, instead of like when we're dealing the other games all the time, they know how to play. It's your level that you don't need referees coming in there and calling 55, 56 fouls. Okay. I mean, you really don't, because when you get past like 4 guys, you probably don't have any bench left, so we understand all the aspects of what's like to go like to the other leagues. We just work harder. I mean, there's no nights off for us, because we don't want you calling in and saying, well, Ted Valentine took the night off. That'll never happen. You can forget that. That will never, ever, ever happen.
And I would say, I think from a play calling standpoint, a couple things. One, it's really difficult to keep big people in the game, more difficult at the mid-major level than it is at the higher level. So when Teddy or I would go back and work a SoCon game or a Big South or Colonial, coaches they seem to like that game better, because we know that second whistle on your big guy with 10 minutes to go in the second half, we know where he's going. So sometimes we would take a incorrect call for the good of the game.
Right.
And it would even out eventually. But, and you can tell if in those games, the timing of our whistles are just a split second. It's not very apparent to the naked eye, but a split second slower than people who ref mid-major games all the time, who might just blow whistles on contact, because we're actually trying to process the play. And we know that when we blow the whistle, there is consequences to that whistle. Whereas, less experienced guys who don't see the high level play all the time will just blow whistles on contact. And, then it's a parade to the bench. And with the rules over the past few years, when they went into all this rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness, it was great on the perimeter, because you got 15 players on a team, you got 10, 11, 12 perimeter guys. Well, when they put it in the post, all right, we put your best big guy on the bench, and then you got, you got the plumber coming in to just take up minutes. That changes the game. That changes your life. It changes your outlook on the game. It changes everything. So I think that's one of the things that those finer points of the overall, craft of officiating and how to manage a game and get, like Teddy said, get through games that people don't really talk about or look at.
See, and what some of you don't understand out there, that officiating is an art. There's an art to this picture. I mean, we paint a picture for you. There is definitely an art. Any veteran that's been around a while, they usually know everything that's going on in the game. I mean, I'm just telling you, I don't know if it was because my mother used to have me run them numbers and play that pick 3 or whatever it was, but we know the number of fouls on players. We know a lot of situations. I mean, so just don't think that we come in there and we're going to take the time off. I mean, we're going to come in there and we're probably going to do more managing than you'll ever see. And then that's why you always like us during the weekdays. And then you get frustrated, like on Saturdays, just like Jamie said, is that you have other officials coming in there. They're not technically wrong. They just don't have all the references in the Rolodex behind them. Okay, like we can dial up a Rolodex of a play. Just like you can go and you can pull up a certain offense, but we can dial up a Rolodex and say, yeah, that's illegal. What did that play hurt? Was there, and I shouldn't be using this term, was there advantage on the play? Was he put at a disadvantage? Was it illegal contact? See, we play all this stuff through our mind, and we only have a split second. And don't fault the younger referees. They're only calling on what nobody has ever showed them. This is what you should do. Because they are always taught, that's a foul, 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 that's a foul. And it's not anything against them, and that's why your games get always disrupted, because they're basically doing what they were told to do. So don't hold that against them.
Good question.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I'll follow up then with another question. Gamaliel Halligba again, University of South Dakota. So knowing that, because I would agree with you guys, whenever we have kind of the seasoned vet officials, the games are, in my opinion, a lot smoother and a lot more rhythm to the play. So how do we get more officials like you guys at our levels, or how do we speed the learning curve for younger officials to understand rhythm and flow of the game, to not blow the whistle on what they're supposed to call versus kind of just seeing the flow of the game?
Well, first of all, we have to remember that we're in a business. So, you know, we're the top of, I mean, we're called what it is. The top officials are going to get the top paid games,
Right.
when the most games are going on. So we'll get that right out of the way.
Yep.
So you're not going to get the guys on Saturday that you get on Thursday or whatever nights your league plays on. Now, as far as the learning curve, you know, that's up to supervisors, and I do think that the training is way more sophisticated now than it's ever been. The business is way more competitive than it is, but it's like anything else. It takes reps. It takes those reps over and over again to understand, you know, whistle consequence, processing plays. You know, just like it takes coaches years of maturity to get to the point where they feel like, okay, I'm in the spot where I need to be, and I know exactly what's going to happen here. And, you know, so it's such a imperfect science, because, you know, we always say that refereeing is a business that you're expected to be perfect your first game out and improve from there. You know, and it just, some guys, I think the teaching and the training and the video is more advanced now than it's ever been. So I think the gap is closing, but then again, you can't simulate what happens in the games, and especially when you add crowds and two coaches and intensity and understanding, like we do that. You guys are in the Summit, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. We understand that winning a league championship in the Summit is really, really hard, right? But, you know, people that look from that don't know that think, oh, well, you know, South Dakota, they got a good team, they should win the Summit every year. No, it doesn't work like that, because the margin of error is so slim. So again, I just think it's you know, we have to continue to train and teach and try to close the gap, but also understand that it's not going to be, it's not going to catch up as fast as we want it to, because it's a learned experience, and it's something that takes time.
Yeah, the last time I was in South Dakota, I paid $12 for a jar of peanut butter. So,
and I have been to South Dakota as well.
Well, that's right. I paid $12 for a jar of peanut butter. But some of the same things that Jamie's saying is that number one, it is unfortunately that there's not a lot of the veterans that have refereed in the past. The younger guy or the younger officials, they basically they're told this, call this, and there's not enough veterans around anymore. There's not that many veterans that can actually pull them aside and say, yeah, I understand this is a foul, but did you think about this over here? Did you think about the play I had over here? Did you think about that? So it may catch us someday.
Right.
It might catch up, or else it may not catch up. I don't know how they judge on who's good, young guys coming up. I mean, I basically don't know how. I mean, I know when I get with one, see, I like to be with one before I can judge one. Okay, I got to be on the floor with them to judge one, and that's probably the reason why you're seeing a whole lot of the same veterans during the weekday, and then on Saturdays you're seeing the young guys. But however, you need to understand they got to get a notch in their belt too, you know, on Saturdays. And anything that you as coaches can do to help guide them through it, maybe, or to make them think in a nice way, that you're actually serving, both, both actually serving both avocations. You're actually serving both of them. If a coach can help me, if I was younger to help me, then it would be, you can actually share things more like back and forth. You can actually help each other because you're a young coach, you got young referees, and you need to find this correlation like between you two on find this happy medium on how you can help each other. And get them to understand what you're looking at, and then maybe they'll understand what you're looking at. Right now, they don't understand what you're looking at. They don't, because they don't have the background that we have. We walk into a game, we know all the coaches, okay? And that practically, gives us a leg up. When we're in the ACC, SEC, or anywhere that we go, we got a leg up from the time we walk in the arena. All we got to do is perform. When they walk in the arena, it may be the first time that you've ever seen them. It may be the first time. So you got to try to find this happy medium, because it is going to be your game. It's going to be their game eventually when we're gone.
If you want to talk, I have a break at 3. Okay. I'm going. Like I wasn't here.
Anyone else got any questions?
You can say hundreds, like the sign says.
All right. Well, what I thought. Steve, you got a question?
It's not just a work environment. Everyone here is.
I could ask more all day, so.
Go ahead, G.
I don't.
You're going to make all the money.
I don't want to hold up there, so I'll let you do what you do, Bentley.
No, go ahead.
Hey,
All right.
Bentley, I'm gonna ask a question. Bentley, I'm gonna ask one. What's up, Jamie? And
How you doing?
hey, look, my thing is with you two guys. You've been around. You've seen a lot. I can go back. Larry Rose and Leslie Jones are two guys who called my high school games, college games. Even when I coached college, they were calling those games. So, what is the best game you guys have reffed in? And then look, and when you walked out of the arena, you said, "Damn, I did a hell of a job." But then, also, what was the game that you went in and said, "Damn, that was a bad game, and I didn't do a great job"? Can you remember that?
I'll go first, Ted. And again, I think you guys know from being on the call that like I started out saying, Teddy and I are very different off the floor than we are on, because on the floor it's our domain, and so humility is I think each one of our strong points. So I would say this, when, again, I'm going back to Jim Birch. In 1996, when my first year in the CIAA, and Jim Birch told me I was working the CIAA finals, and I got to that final game in Winston-Salem, and Ben Wallace was playing, and they were playing, I think it was Norfolk. Union was playing Norfolk. That to me was like the start for me in a game that I will never forget, because it was a high profile league, high profile players, especially back then in the AA. I know it's still good now, but even more so then. So and to me that's one of those games that stand out to me as okay, it was a great game when you arrived. And of course, when I got in the locker room, Birch burst my bubble and told me I missed one play, and I was devastated, but it really didn't matter. But and then and I could go to the NCAA games, but I always talk about this game. Carolina and Wake Forest, triple overtime, when Chris Paul and those guys were at Wake. Raymond was at Felton and May, and all those guys were at Carolina, 111 to 108, 3 days before Christmas in triple overtime. One of those games that we had so many decisions, like we talked about earlier, about keeping players in the game in a triple overtime game you have, that was me and Reggie Kofer, who's a great referee, now going to help Mike Eads out in the SEC. And Duke Edsel were in that game. It's just one of those games that, to me, I'll never forget that game because of, what was on the line and basically how long we were on the floor. I've had some 4 overtimes, but not at that high level. But those are just a couple games that that stand out to me.
One of the games I think that really helped me grow was in 1987. I was working Indiana at Wisconsin, my first year in the Big Ten. And my very first year, I made this call that Steve Alford went to the line and he won the game. And when I got home, I always taped all the games on VHS tape, on VHS. I wore out them tape machines. I did. I got home, I had taped the game, and there was some things in the newspaper, like about the game as I left Madison. And I watched this tape, and it was a terrible call. And it was like, see, I was always taught by my parents and my grandmother that when you make a mistake, you go up to the mistake. And then that way you're able to move on in life. And that way you can get it off you instead of you relishing about the mistake, and because you have more snowball effects. When I saw this play and I watched it over and over and over, and I let a team win a game in a 3 overtime, it really broke my heart. And I was a young kid and I didn't know how to take it. Well, I took it upon myself. I did. I took it basically upon myself. I had to get on the phone. I had to find out, because we had a directory back in those days of every Big Ten coach. And I didn't know how to talk to a coach. And I called up Steve Yoder. And I'll never forget this conversation. And I had, I still had little misty tears in my eyes because I'm going, you know what? I cost somebody a game on something terrible. And he told me, he says, I really do appreciate you taking the time out to call me. And I know you're sorry. And that's why I didn't beat you up that bad in the press. He says, I'm going to tell you something else, and you carry this with me. And you carry this with you. You're going to become a great referee. And can you imagine, to a guy that's lost a game to a rival, 3 overtimes, and you're a young official and you make a call and you put him on the line, and that just ate me alive. Well, now when I see Steve Yoder, we kind of like smile about it. And sometimes people will see something in you, knowing that, hey, you just made a mistake. It wasn't life and death. And I cherish that often. I keep that in my head, because that was one of the worst calls I think I've ever made in my life to ever, cost somebody a game. One of the greatest games I've ever been involved in was in the Garden between Allen Iverson and Ray Allen. There were 2 pro players. They were going back and forth. I'm a young ref, and it just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The crowd was yelling, the crowd was cheering, and Ray Allen hit the shot at the buzzer. I still, at times, wish that game would have kept going, because of the type of game that there are just some games you just want it to keep going. Jamie will tell you that. Some games you wish, hey, we could be here all night long. Just keep going, keep going. And there's some games you're going to go, and you're looking around and you're rolling your eyes, go, you know what, get me the hell out of here quick as we can. But those are about the only 2 that come to my mind. And I've been very fortunate. I've been in a lot of games. I've been in so many, and I had to think back to some of my favorites, but I still carry that Wisconsin Indiana game in my head. I still carry that to this day.
Thank both of you guys, 2 Hall of Fame refs. And Jamie, I remember the days of both of you guys when you could ref my game in the CIAA and then and ref a game during the day and then ref a game at night. So I remember those days when y'all were refing 2 games in a day.
I can't do that anymore, but yeah, I've done it.
Used to do it all the time.
Do you got any more questions?
I mean, like I said, I could fire questions all day.
Go ahead.
All right, I guess I'll ask this one just for everyone. You guys can maybe talk about your guys' process. Obviously, you guys watch a ton of film. What's your guys' routine going into a game, or especially a marquee game that it's especially heading into seeding time for tournament? What's your guys' process of going into games that you guys are officiating?
Well, what I usually do is like in my schedule, I always look at the games, and you always know this one game is out there that you know it's going to be a barn burner. I actually start working harder. I work hard every night, but I start working on things. I do a lot of more processing, try to get a little sharper. I kind of like work my way like into games, you know, like the NFL does. I mean, they have their preseason, and I kind of like if I'm in this preseason, if we were in a regular season, I know that I'm not going to be sharp November 1st. I basically know it. Teams aren't going to be sharp. Referees aren't going to be sharp. So just don't, you know, expect that magic to come out. It's not going to happen. In fact, Jamie, when we in the ACC game last year that broke out the first game of the year,
Yeah.
between Miami and Louisville.
Oh, no, I wasn't in that game. No, I
Well,
wasn't. Yeah.
Well, if you look at if the conference games start off the get-go, like if it started like November 1st, we're not ready to referee. Seriously, we're not. And the reason why they were not is because we really haven't seen a lot of plays. We basically haven't got into a rhythm. I'm a rhythm type person. My rhythm gets thrown off, you know, whether it's my travel, whether it's my hotel. I'm a rhythm type person. That's just how it's naturally been. That's why when Jamie and them see me, I got them beats on my head and all that stuff. I'm a rhythm type of a referee. And if something like gets discombobulated with me, I end up worrying more about what I should be doing instead of going on what I already know, because I don't trust my instincts at that time of the year. Now, as the season goes on, I get more into like a rhythm. I done seen a lot of these plays. I done seen both teams. I'm familiar with what partners that I'm refereeing with, because that's got a lot to do with it too. It's your partners, of you feeling comfortable with your partners. I know that if I got Jamie across from me, then I don't have to worry about anything hardly. Okay, I just know that he's going to take care of his part, and when he needs to say you need to do something, he's going to do it. I'm a rhythm type referee. I don't know what how Jamie does stuff, but I'm just different. I got to be in the locker room 2.5 hours for the game. I got to be in the locker room 2.5 hours. That's just my deal. I got to be there.
Yeah, and I would add to that is we work, like, say it's me, Teddy, and Roger, and it's late in the year. We work together so much that you know what you're going to get when the game starts. So the focus is crew chemistry and team officiating, really. I mean, it's no different than what you guys do. We're all going to do our part to help the crew, to help the team. And, and we don't even have to talk about being on the same page, because, like, if you're with certain guys, you're going to be on the same page. So you're going to be, what's going to be a foul at this end is going to be a foul at the other end. Or we know we're not going to go out and, like I said earlier, jump on a big man on a marginal play early in the game. We might take a 3-second call, which isn't called hardly any time anymore. But instead of calling post foul early in the game, we may take a 3-second call just to say stop, just knock it off, so we can try to clean up the game that way. But we all know what we're going to do, and so we might talk a little bit about personnel, or if something's going on in the game or someone's not playing. I mean, in the locker room, we don't offer that information anywhere ever public, and that's a big thing. But we get to the game and we find out someone's not playing, then we know that's going to affect the game. We'll discuss that a little bit, but we all, it's a team approach, the same as as you guys do. It's crew officiating, or crew chemistry, team officiating. We do our job and we try to get out of there and make sure the right team wins the game. And then hopefully not have any controversy and be really good, especially in the last 4 minutes of the game. We're supposed to be really good anyway, but in the last 4 minutes of the game, we need to be high 90%, because that's what everybody's going to remember. They're not going to remember if you miss a travel 8 to go in the first half. But if you miss a travel with 54 seconds to go and it costs somebody a possession and someone hits a 3, then, so it's all about that kind of stuff. But in the most of the top leagues, we work together so much that it's kind of we know what each other's going to do.
And the thing is too is that we usually know, which is a favor, which is more to our advantage, is that we basically have a scouting report practically on every team just about, because when we're not reffing, we're watching usually, or else if there's been something in the prior games, trust me, by the time we get to that game, we know there was a situation in that game. Okay, that's just how we are. I mean, because we never walk into battle without us knowing all the logistics of what taking place. I mean, that's just how we are, because we want to know when we step in what we're stepping into. We just do. We want to be as comfortable. We want the teams to be comfortable. We know each other very well, that we can look at each other and tell something's wrong. I mean, we can tell. I mean, we can just look at each other and say, oh, okay, something's wrong. I mean, like, without having a lot of dialogue sometimes. That we can tell that when we're all on the same page, because we're always talking basketball. That's what we do. We talk basketball. It's more than just get a drink of water and stand along the sideline and then take a towel and wipe your forehead off, okay? So we're just trying to, because this is our business too, and we're trying to anticipate what takes place. But one of the things that I do with younger officials is every time there's a TV timeout, you huddle with TV. That's what it's always been that way with me. Every TV timeout, my crews, we usually huddle. Or if I'm on Jamie's end, we'll talk about a sequence of plays that may have taken place during that course, because I may ask him, Jamie, did you see that play very good, that the play I had right there? What do you think? Teddy, well, that's what I appreciate, his honesty. Then I'm going, okay, well, maybe I need to get to the coach and tell the coach, hey, you know what? You're right about that play. Okay. So we use each other as a springboard to help each other get through the game. We keep ourselves in the game mentally. And just like how he says, we're only knowing for the last 4 or 5 minutes of that game, because people, they will forget all about what took place, what transpired there. But if we blow a whistle at the wrong time, then it brings everybody's attention, and it's our job to try to get out of the game without anybody paying any attention to us.
I'll tell you one thing about Ted. If he leaves me after a huddle, I say, where are you going? And he says, I'm going to have a prayer meeting with the coach. That's not good for the coach. That's not a good situation for the coach to be in. I can tell you that.
It's a prayer meeting, all right. I got that straight. Okay, well, Jamie, we're ready to go now. Let's go. I think you've got him back on page now. Let's get it.
That's good stuff.
Did I see Steve Smith pop on there?
Yeah, he was. He's on here.
Put him on there. He don't have no question. Put him on here. What's up, man?
Steve might be sleeping.
Where's Steve?
Trying to make sure he don't get himself in trouble, probably.
Teddy,
What's that?
Teddy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, man, I'm sitting in the living room. I'm just enjoying it, man. I'm sitting here listening at the 2 seasoned veterans.
Yeah, there you go. That's the face I want to see right there.
Y'all got. Hey,
that's the face I want to see. Trying to sneak up in here.
Hey, y'all do me good, man. I love you guys, man. That's why I got nothing to say, man. I know y'all boys do a hell of a job.
Well, you know what I was going to say? I thought I might see CY sitting next to you, but he never sits down anyway. So he
right. Where's CY? Where's my man? Where's Carlton? Where's my man?
Hey, I just left him. We was at the gym. I had you guys on. We was at the gym.
Yeah, we need to get him a special stool.
Nah, CY's okay with me. Okay.
Hey, y'all tell me to tell him to sit down.
Exactly.
Well, hey, we figure that you're just new to the staff. You can help us out. So,
I
Okay.
be trying, man.
Okay. You know what Leonard says? Oh man, don't pay attention to them guys. Get over and tell them guys sit down and shut up. Leonard, they're okay. They're all right.
Hey, man, this was great for you guys to come on here and do this. It really is, to have two big-time officials like yourself to take time out to do this with this group of guys is unbelievable. When David told me he had you guys coming on, I couldn't believe it. I said, he got those two superstars coming on tonight, man. I got to be on the call.
Okay.
Hey, I got teed up. I got teed up in a summer game to make this happen.
Yeah, I had to settle him down.
Teddy, I heard you saw my wife last week.
Sure did. And did your son play too?
Yeah, you coached my son last week.
Yes, I did. I said, I know your dad.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. He looked at me and said, what? Yeah. You and Earl's son? Yeah, I coached him.
Yeah.
That's the only game I won all day. So. Yes, sir. Yep. He said, my dad's Steve. I said, that's your dad? Yeah. I said, you look like your